All right, everyone, welcome back into another props video. Going to be touching on the top prop bets for Flex Friday, but I want to start out with a bet that we're getting a pretty big edge on both Underdog and PrizePicks. This is going to be kind of a bet that we can use for middling purposes. So that's going to be starting out with pitcher Aaron Nola. Okay, so we're going to see that his pitching fantasy score on Underdog is at 28.5. And then we can see on PrizePicks, it's at 33.5. That should not be happening. That is a massive prop line difference. Now, I know there's a slight different calculation between how they value quality starts and also wins. But for the most part, it's kind of the same thing. And so this should never be happening. This is crazy that this is happening. And we can see the data here. When we look at the average sportsbook line, it's telling us that should be in the middle. We look at the projection data, also telling us that this line should be in the middle. So to me, that's a starting point kind of for today. Obviously, we want it to hit in the middle. We want him to get 30, but this is a big edge really regardless. And more times than not, obviously the middle is not going to hit, but at the same time, this is one where we kind of just need to use it because it is such a good edge that we are using. And so maybe you're wondering, well, what can I use with Aaron Nola for Underdog? And I'll just get into that real quick. The bet that I like pairing him with is actually going to be just Chris Bassett for over 29.5 for his fantasy score. Now he does have a tough matchup, but he is someone that can go deep into games. His outs for the day is at 17.5. He's at like 5.5 strikeouts. So if those two things occur where he's right around there, then yes, he's going to be able to get over the 29.5 for the fantasy score. So that's going to be my bet of the day there for Underdog. Kind of a quick and easy one. With that now, let's go ahead and get into PrizePicks Flex Friday slip. And so we go ahead and look at the top prop bets that we are currently getting on PrizePicks. We got Hayes for over his fantasy score, which as we can see based off of the projection day and everything, the PrizePicks line is definitely the outlier there. Same thing for De La Cruz. Now those two players have definitely been more hit or miss, but those are two prop bets that I'll be using. I don't mind Gill for over his pitching strikeouts as well. He's someone that kind of sort of has been pitching well, especially in terms of strikeouts. The issue with him is that he is not going deep into games. He's only pitching about 5 innings. So maybe he has a bad inning and he doesn't even get to 5 innings. That's kind of the worry with him, is that he's just not pitching deep in the games. On the plus side, he is definitely striking out a bunch of pitchers. That's a good EV bet right now. We have another good EV bet right here. If you guys want to use any of these, by all means, go for it. But I think I'm just going to stick with the top two there, and then also using Aaron Nola as a good potential edge. I do think it's worth calling out as well that the day it does like Corbin Burns to get over the pitching fantasy score of 40.5. The average sportsbook line would actually have it set at 47, which is massive. Obviously, that's a big difference there. The projection day likes at 32, so a decent edge there. I don't know if I exactly trust that line too much, but that's another good pitching fantasy score prop that you could use with your Flex Friday slip. With that, let's go ahead and get into basketball. We are getting a couple of decent edges, I would say, but at the same time, they are a little bit risky. So we can see that we are getting TJ McConnell for over his fantasy score of 17, and then also Mike Conley for over his fantasy score of 25.5. Now, with TJ McConnell, this does feel very much minutes dependent, and also the fact that he has not been playing well thus far this postseason. I should say more so just not shooting well lately. But all the data points point to him being able to get this over. And if we look at TJ McConnell, we're going to see that, you know, really these two games between the Bucks and Pacers have been two games that have been blowouts, both of them. And so he is someone that typically has been getting right around 19 to 20 minutes or so not too far off of what he had in game one. And then in game two, probably would have got a little bit more run in that game. Now, he just hasn't shot the basketball well. He is someone that typically gets more assists, can get a block or a steal as well, mostly a steal. But we need him to shoot the basketball better. But 17 for him really isn't that much. Obviously, prior to the two games here with Milwaukee, he's been able to get that over. And I just think that's more of the games being kind of more random blowouts. Kind of expect this game to be a little bit closer tonight. So that'd be a good bet there. And then the other good one that we have is going to be Mike Conley. For over his fantasy score, he has been someone that has been getting a little bit more run during the postseason thus far compared to his average minutes of about 29. So if we get him getting a few more minutes, I do like this over for Mike Conley for over his fantasy score. Now we're going to see that in the last game, he did get his over fantasy score there as well. 2 out of 3 games against Phoenix thus far, he's been able to get the over. For the most part, like, he's going to hit this over more times than not. So I do kind of agree with this as well. And so looking at the Flex Friday bet of the day, we are going to be running out that middle for Aaron Nola. Again, you want to be running that over then on Underdog as well, because that is a big prop line difference. We should not be getting that. That is crazy. Then we're just going to use the two best hitting fantasy score prop bets that we have on the day with Hayes and De La Cruz for over their hitting fantasy scores. They both been a little bit hit or miss. So, you know, that's kind of the nature of hitting fantasy score prop bets though. TJ McConnell for over his hitting fantasy score, or sorry, over his fantasy score. Again, need him to shoot the basketball better. Typically doesn't shoot as bad as he has, so you kind of expect him to have a slight better game there. And if he does have a slightly better game and the game does stay close, he should be able to get that over fantasy score. And then Mike Conley for over 25.5 for his fantasy score. He's been able to get that over 2 out of 3 times thus far this series, and he's also someone that should get closer to 33 minutes, thus making that a good bet for us today. But that's gonna be all for the video, guys. Make sure to give a like and subscribe to the channel. Do appreciate that. If you guys want access to any of the tools that you saw in this video, head on over to 9to5sports.com. That's gonna be it for today's Flex Friday video. Appreciate you guys being here. Good luck today, and as always, let's keep cashing.